Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Today we will be going through the macroeconomics question of IIT JAM 2022 paper. So, to begin with, we are going to go ahead and start with the initial MCQ questions that came in this paper. Which of the following deficits indicate the true current fiscal position of the Indian economy? So when we talk about this question, note that the revenue deficit only talks about what is my revenue expenditures that I have done and how this revenue expenditure would have exceeded the earnings that I would have made. So revenue earnings or revenues of the government. Revenue deficit is more or less linked to the daily expenses. Like just say, for example, expenditure could be how much am I paying salaries, right? That is not going to tell me the true fiscal position. It's just one part of fiscal. So when I talk about fiscal deficit, it consists of revenue deficit and capital deficit combined together, right? It has to include both. So when I say, it's the total expenditure minus the total earnings of the government. Similarly, when I talk about capital deficit, it is only one aspect. It cannot tell me the true position, true fiscal position of any economy. When I talk about the current account deficit, this is external. This is not internal. Fiscal deficit or fiscal position is an internal deficit position. Current account deficit is an external deficit point. Note that in economics, we have something which is known as a twin deficit problem. Whenever we talk about twin deficit is two deficits. One is internal and one is external. External is all this, balance of payment oriented. And internal is related to the government, how much government is spending, how much government is consuming. So current account deficit cannot be linked to the internal position of the economy. The only correct answer that I have is the primary deficit, and it is in fact true. When I talk about the primary deficit, and you may want to note this down, the primary deficit is actually fiscal deficit less the interest payments on borrowing. So because I am going ahead and I am not considering at least the part which is not related to the non-productive part of the economy. Interest payment is always non-productive. I borrowed money. Now I have to not only pay that money, I have to also pay interest on that. That's the non-productive spending of any government. If I leave behind that non-productive aspect of the government, leaving that aside, what is the remaining fiscal deficit of the government? That is called the primary deficit. And at max, this is the best thing, the best way to judge the fiscal position of any country. Now, in one of our mock tests also, I had given you this question, and it had this part that actually there was a printing mistake there, but there was this option that I had given, which said that the revenue deficit increasing, the fiscal deficit is bad for the economy. Is bad. This is true. Because if I go ahead and I increase the revenue deficit aspect, I am again dealing with non-productive part. I may be increasing this, I may be going ahead and I am spending on things which are not productive. It's not the capital deficit that I am increasing. I'm increasing the revenue part of the deficit. So the fiscal deficit, whenever fiscal deficit increases, it will be still beneficial to my economy if it is countered, if the major part in that fiscal deficit is the capital deficit aspect. It's the capital which the government is kind of involved in, and that is why it kind of went ahead and it incurred the deficit. Okay, so that's the answer. Come to the next question. Suppose 1 million unemployed people in a country are receiving 6,000 per month as an unemployment allowance. If the government, instead of paying unemployment allowance, hires all of them at the same amount and engages them in digging the pits and filling the same pits, what will be the effect on GDP? So an excellent question. The question actually wants to understand whether you know, and this is what my first class is all about when we do macroeconomics, whether you know what would be included in GDP and what will not be included in GDP. So you must remember that anything which does not lead to any productive activity, that is not a part of GDP. So if it is not leading to productive activity, it is not supposed to be a part of GDP. Just for example, unemployment allowance. I am giving allowance to people who are unemployed. They are not involved in any productive activity. So this is just as good as making a transfer payment to any poor person, any person who is below the poverty line. I'm making some payments to him, but he is not involved in any productive activity. If I convert this, and instead of giving this unemployment allowance, I start giving you money only if you work, right? I start paying you the same money, but as wage by employing you. Then you are involved in a productive activity. And if you are involved in a productive activity, then that's good enough. Then that will be part of my GDP. So this means that earlier, when it was an unemployment allowance, it was not a part of GDP because there was no productive activity involved. And when it converts to wage, if I am giving the same money as wage, that's a part of GDP. So the correct answer to this question is that my GDP will increase because now I am going ahead and I am giving you that amount as wage, as a resource after you have involved in productive activity. Okay, come to the next question. Which of the following, who first examined the close negative relationship between unemployment rate and output ratio? So we know that when we talk about Phillips is associated with Phillips curve. Phillips curve gives us the relationship between unemployment and inflation. At max, if I talk about augmented Phillips curve, it is unemployment and expected inflation. When I talk about Tobin, the best thing you can link Tobin to is Tobin's Q. Again, we did a question on this in our mock paper also. So Tobin's Q, you can link him to capital. What is the desired amount of capital and what's the actual amount of capital? Okun, on the other hand, can be linked to the Okun's law. And he is the one who determines between unemployment and output. Right. So the correct answer, and Solo is linked to Solo model. So the correct answer to this question is C, that we have Okun, who is linked to U and Y. Again, last time in 2021 also they asked a question on Okun's law, but there they asked you to find the output level in the economy. This time they have just given the question like this. So the questions are not difficult. You should be thorough with the equation of Okun's law, with Tobin's Q, with the Phillips curve equation, with the AS curve equation, which links Y and pi, inflation and output, with the Solo model equation. So equations have to be very thoroughly done from this topic. Okay, come to the next question. Which of the following is not a postulate of classical model of full employment equilibrium? See, when we talk about full employment equilibrium, let's talk about the first point. We assume that wage and prices are flexible. If my wages are sticky, if they don't move according to price, then I can't achieve full employment, right? So sticky prices is a concept, or sticky wages is a concept which was launched by Keynes when he saw recession. But when we talk about the classical model, they thought that wages and price can move very easily. That is why, because price could move easily, they introduced neutrality of money. They said, look, increase money and price will increase immediately. Wages will increase immediately. Real wage will remain constant. You will always be at full employment level. So basically, they assumed that wage and prices, they are flexible. On the other hand, if I talk about Keynes, he postulated the concept of stickiness. He is the one who talked about that. So this is correct. This is, in fact, a part of classical model. Perfect information about the prices, about the market. Correct. Again, because the classicals, they were always of a view that the markets are working perfectly, that everyone knows everything about the market, that there is no reason why there will be excess supply or excess demand. Markets will clear themselves. They thought that there is perfect information about the market. So no asymmetry was talked about when we talk about the classical model. Is interest rate and money supply always inversely related? So Shomik, money supply, no, money supply to we assume to be vertical, right? Money demand can have a relation with interest rate. Money supply is assumed to be exogenous in the models.
Ma'am, I'm asking in the sense of monetary policy.
In the sense of monetary policy, how? What happens when money supply increases? Is this what you're asking?
Ma'am, if ma'am, in order to increase the money supply, we have to reduce the interest rate so that people will not put money in the bank for saving.
Money, in order to increase money supply, we have to change interest rate? No, no. My money supply can only be changed by the Reserve Bank, by the central bank. The things that we can do can only be around money demand. I cannot have any changes from money supply side. That cannot be done. So,
okay,
I mean, unless you have a particular question that you can post, I can see into that. This is my money supply. This is my money demand, right? Demand has this equation ky minus hi. This can be linked to interest rate. Supply will always be exogenous. If supply increases by the government, suppose the supply curve shifts to the right, then in that case, I can go ahead and I can think of it that, okay, when supply increased, interest rate decreased, right? But how is this working? When the supply curve shifted to the right, I have more money in my economy. This more money has to be consumed. The only way to consume this money will be to increase the demand also. Because now I have more notes in the economy. How can I increase the demand? If people will hold more money. When will people hold more money? If they will not invest. When will they not invest? When interest rate will decrease. So this will shift the interest rate downward. So this is going to shift to the right, and there is going to be a movement along the demand curve so that I move from point A to point B. So basically, we are always going to have inverse relationship between interest rate and the demand of money. This effect is only for the short run. So the inverse relationship between the demand of money and interest rate is irrespective. I mean, we don't talk about short run or long run. If you notice, this money market is helping me determine the LM curve. The LM curve is supposed to be upward sloping from this money market. LM curve can be horizontal or vertical depending on a particular case. Just if I am trapped, if there is a liquidity trap, right? In such cases, I can go ahead and say that, okay, my LM curve will become horizontal. Or if I am already at full employment level of output, I can make my LM curve even to be vertical. But usually speaking, we don't, I mean, for the money market side, we don't do short run versus long run. When we talk about ADAS, we do a short run, long run phenomena. Money market, we don't in particular do a short run, long run. If at all they ask you what happens, then we can of course say that, I can take my LM curve to be vertical, and there is going to be no effect of the government policy, fiscal policy in the long run, because I will be at my full employment level. So there will be full crowding out effect from I to I star. This is how I will move. So I will move from point E to E dash, and LM will become vertical at the full employment level. We can do that. But usually, when we talk about the money market, short run, long run don't play that much a role. I mean, they will never ask you what happens in short run versus long run within the money market. That will not be asked. And other thing which you can relate this to is the quantity theory of money. So even if you go ahead and check this, MV is equal to PY, which comes for classicals, then you can go ahead and say that M by P is equal to 1 by V into Y. So M by P is equal to K times Y. This is what the classical suggested. So in that sense, when I talk about the classicals, they didn't introduce any interest rate. According to the quantity theory of money, I am only linked with this, that the real money is only linked to the real output. It's not linked to interest rate. So if they ask you, if you wanted to ask whether it will always be, real money will always be linked to interest rate, it's not linked in case of classicals. But the equation that usually we do, yes, we link it. We say that the demand of money is going to be KY minus HF. But remember, this is always inversely related to the interest rate, demand of money. We equate demand to supply. So in that sense, things become like this, but not directly. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Next we talk about, so next point is consumption and savings function depend on income. So what were we doing? We were doing the classical view. So this is a concept given by Keynes actually. Keynes gave this function which said that C is equal to C bar plus Cy, S is equal to minus S bar plus small sy. So this was not given by classical theory. This was given by Keynes theory. So this is incorrect. The price level moves proportionately with the quantity of money. Yes, that's correct. That's called the neutrality of money. This is given by classical. And we can link it to the quantity theory of money also. So we can have this equation in place, and we can say that when this increases, we hold usually these things constant. Y is at full employment level. It's anyways constant. So this increases in the same proportion. So you can write this part as this also. And I want to kind of highlight one more thing here. So I will quickly do that also. So here, you can say GM. So we have, so I'm just trying to link quantity theory of money in terms of growth. So GM plus GV is equal to GP plus GY. So GM plus GV equal to inflation plus G1. So if the growth rate of output is 0, because it is at full employment level, and the growth rate of velocity is 0, because we assume velocity to be constant, then GM becomes equal to 1. So the growth rate in money will be equal to the inflation rate. In some questions, especially in GATE exam, what they did is they gave inflation. They gave inflation at 4%. And later they asked, very tricky question, that they asked, what should be growth rate of money to hold inflation constant, or to keep prices stable, to keep prices not growing, something like that they will say. Actually, they mentioned the word inflation constant. So they gave this GP, GV, and GY. Tino ka value was given. They asked about GM. GP was given at 4. GY was given, suppose, at 8. GV was given at 2. They asked GM. So usual thing would have been that you just plug in these 3 values. Here, 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 and you find GM. But they actually said that we want the growth in price to be 0. We want to keep it at the same level. We don't want prices to grow. So ideally, what should be done is that this should be kept at 0, even though that was given in the question. So reading the question is very important in the right way. You have to go through each and every word, what it implies. This can come as a fill in the blank, an NAT question. So you have to be pretty sure whether all the information given in the question is to be used or is not to be used. And I will show you that a lot of times in IIT also. Okay, now come to this question. So an economy in the last question, there is no output produced, no productive activity. No, it says that there is a productive activity, right? There, the government is employing them. When you are employed, when you hire people and you engage them in, they're digging the pit and filling the pit, but you're engaging them, you're paying them something. So if you pay them something, you are assuming that it must be a productive activity. So to give you the example, I mean, I should not be saying it, but imagine a person who works who works in a government office, and every day he goes and he just has his tea and he comes back and he gets 60,000 a month, maybe something like that. I will include his salary in GDP, even though he's not doing any productive activity. We don't account for productive activity using the method whether they actually worked in office or not. We will account it by the way whether they were paid or not, right? So if government is paying them as salary, yes, then that would be part of GDP. I mean, even if 2 of them end up not digging in the real time. Okay, so come to the next question. So an economy is characterized by the solo model with the production function. Yes, even from income method you will get that, absolutely. An economy is characterized by the solo model with production function y is equal to root k, where y is output per worker and k is capital per worker. The steady state of output per worker, steady state is already given to you in the question as YSS equal to A 1/1 minus alpha gamma by delta alpha upon 1 minus alpha. Okay. Denote productivity is okay, etc., etc. It says A is 1. 1/1 minus alpha is half. Gamma is 50%, so I will take 0.5. Delta is 5%, so 0.05. Just divide by 100 to convert the percentage. Alpha is half. 1 minus half. Okay. This is going to be YSS. So what will be my YSS? 1 to the power anything is 1. This is 50 by 5. and this is just 1. So this gives you the answer as 10. Now, this is my steady state. Then it says that capital is at 400. So what is your actual output? It is root of 400, which means it will be 20. So clearly my actual output is greater than the steady state level of output, isn't it? So I'm going to go ahead and get the answer as above the steady state. Correct. So answer is A. So very, very simple question. That is why I have been telling you, please don't deviate yourself with ISI questions at this time. We will do ISI the moment we finish. ISI ka sara question we will do it in the live class. Don't worry. The moment I finish with IIT exam, don't deviate yourself doing ISI, DSC. Sometimes in order to do difficult questions, you end up not doing the simpler ones. At max, do the mock tests that are important, right? Because usme, even if you don't get to the last answer, wo jo beech ka tricky part hai, I want you to just keep those things in mind. But don't do ISI for now, please. Which of the following statement is not correct in the context of quantity theory of money? Okay. So quantity theory of money is MV is equal to PY. The quantity of money available determines the price in the economy. So that's correct. Money is going to determine the price. This is correct. The growth rate in the quantity of money is available determines the inflation rate in the economy. The same thing. If I take log on both sides, I will get this equation. Then if you just differentiate this, you will get this. And you can rewrite this as GM plus GV equal to GP plus GY. So growth rate of money determines inflation, correct. Velocity of money must rise with increase in the quantity of money in the economy. This is not suggested by quantity theory. There is so if you think about this, then velocity of money will be Py by M. If M increases, then V will decrease, right? It will not increase. So this is an incorrect statement. The economy's output is determined by factors, supplies, and technology because money is neutral. Neutrality of money is suggested because this is the classical model. So this is also correct. So the correct answer to this question is going to be C. Come to the next question. Which of the following statement is not correct under the IS-LM fixed price model? The LM curve represents the combination of income and interest rate where money market is in equilibrium, correct? I usually have the supply of money. I have the demand of money. The demand and supply will give me an interest rate. When my income increases, demand of money increases. Demand of money curve will shift to the right or upwards. The interest rate in the economy will increase. So increase in Y increases I, LM curve is upward sloping, and this is a money market equilibrium situation. So this is correct. The IS curve represents the combination of income and interest rate where goods and service market is in equilibrium. This is also correct statement because we know that I draw a 45-degree line. We have this as C plus I plus G. When interest rate increases, investment decreases because I is I bar minus BI. When investment decreases, I shift downwards. The level of my output at equilibrium decreases. So increase in interest rate decreases Y. We show that by a downward sloping IS curve, and it shows the goods market equilibrium. An increase in money supply raises income and reduces the interest rate when IS has a negative slope and LM has a positive slope. Okay, let's do this part. Increase in money supply. So when money supply increases, देखो money supply का increase is not used in the derivation of LM curve. Derivation uses the increase in money demand because of increase in income. So increase in money supply, because it is not used in deriving the LM curve, will shift the LM curve. So when money supply increases, my LM curve should shift to the right. When money supply decreases, my LM curve should shift backward. So increase in money supply should shift my LM curve to the right. So I have LM curve, I have IS curve, the LM curve shifts to the right. When my LM curve shifts to the right, I am supposed to go ahead and increase my income, and I'm going to go ahead and reduce the interest rate. When IS has a negative slope and LM has a positive slope, so this is equal to monetary policy has a relatively weak effect on income when the interest responsiveness of the demand for money is relatively low. So what is going to happen in this is I want to just give you a quick theory of the multiplier so that you can revise it with me. So please write that. See the slope. So if you notice, money market equation is supply of money equal to demand of money, right? And from here, if I have to draw my LM curve, it is in the IY space. So I can just find the slope of this. So slope will be d of m by p is equal to k dy minus h di. Ye to zero hoga. Money supply does not change along the same LM curve, because only shift, it can shift the LM curve. It can't bring movement along the LM curve. So this will be zero. This will be ky k dy minus h di. So it will be h di equal to k dy, and di by dy will become k by h. So basically, we see that if I just have to talk about the slope of the LM curve, then the slope of the LM curve in itself is going to be steeper the larger the value of k. Because when k increases, slope increases. Increasing slope will always give you a steeper curve. Second, it is flatter the larger the h. Okay. Now, if I just go ahead and look at the fourth part that it is saying, it said that monetary policy has relatively weak effect on income. Monetary policy means I must shift the LM curve. Weak effect of income when interest responsiveness of money demand is low. Interest responsiveness. So if I talk about my equation was demand of money is equal to ky minus hi. Ye interest responsiveness hai, h. And it says interest responsiveness is relatively low. It means that this h is low. So if I go back here and I check, if h is low, then देखो मैंने बोला flatter the larger the h. If h is low, then LM is steeper. So I'm going to show you the two things, one with steeper LM and one with flatter LM. So have a look. This is going to be my IS curve. I am going to draw a steep LM and I am going to draw a flat LM. It is a monetary policy. So I'm going to shift my LM curve. So I shift my LM curve by the same amount. Jitna arrow bana diya, utne se hi shift karna hai, dono ko. So once I will shift my flat LM curve, and the other time I will shift my steep LM curve. Note that both have been shifted by the same gap. Shifting the LM curve because it is a monetary policy. So when I shift the steep LM curve, I go from equilibrium point E to equilibrium point E dash. That means my income increases from Y to Y dash. And when I shift the flat LM curve, I go from equilibrium point E to equilibrium point E double dash. Mane I go from Y to Y double dash. So flatter the LM curve. Jitna flat hoga LM curve, I am going to have lesser impact of monetary policy. Less impact of monetary policy. In this case, they said that H is low, which means LM is steep. Steep LM curve, more impact, right? More output is increasing. So steeper the LM curve. You should remember all this. The more effective the monetary policy. So which means that this is an incorrect statement where it is saying that it will be less impactful. It should be more impactful, right? AD will be flatter. Huh. So AD is going to depend on both IS and LM curve. And of course, I can just talk about the statement, what you are saying is correct, but I have to see what is my alpha, what is my K, other factors holding constant, then we can talk about this being correct. Now just think about this. Other than this, and because you talked about AD curve, I want you to make a note of two multiplier. देखो एक multiplier तो वो होता है जो directly निकल जाता है. That means this is your 45-degree line. This is your C plus I plus G. This shifts. And this multiplier is simple. इसको हम alpha G बोलते हैं, which is 1 upon 1 minus C or 1 upon 1 minus C, 1 minus T, depending on the value, on whether tax is given or not. This is a simple multiplier. ये multiplier तब तक है जब तक AS AD का concept launch नहीं हुआ. Till I am just working with the goods market. But once I have created an IS curve from this goods market and I have connected this to LM curve, then this is not the multiplier. Then corresponding to this IS and LM curve, we will have something which will be called as the fiscal and monetary multiplier. Monetary multiplier is when monetary policy comes, when LM shifts to the right, when money increases, and fiscal multiplier is when IS shifts to the right, when IS curve is shifting. So these are the two multipliers that I have. Please write down the values of these. We have done the derivation. It's also there in the intermediate videos. But for now, I'm giving you the derivation. Please write down. So your fiscal multiplier can be represented by alpha G upon 1 plus K alpha G B by H. एक चीज को एनालाइज कर लेना. H is the interest sensitivity of demand of money. K is income sensitivity of demand of money. B is interest sensitivity of the investment. And alpha G is this alpha G only. जो यहाँ पे alpha G निकाला था. This entire thing is the fiscal multiplier. तो fiscal multiplier सिर्फ ये नहीं है. Fiscal multiplier is impacted by B, H, K, and alpha G. Similarly, the monetary multiplier. Suppose this entire thing is some gamma. So monetary multiplier is B by H into gamma. Why am I telling you these? Because suppose in exam, they tell you that when B increases, sensitivity of interest rate increases for investment, then fiscal policy becomes less effective. ऐसा कुछ दे दिया है statement में. I know that this B is coming in the denominator. This B is coming in the denominator. So I know that if this B will increase, the entire fraction will decrease because it is in the denominator. So when B will increase, fiscal policy multiplier will decrease. So it will be less effective. So you don't have to then go ahead and again think about कौन steeper होगा, कौन flatter होगा. You just have to check directly whether it is going to increase the multiplier or decrease the multiplier. So it will be a good idea if you can at least keep these two multipliers in mind. It will be very helpful later on. Okay. So this statement was incorrect. So D is the correct answer to this question. Make sure that you read the statements. Most of the time IIT will say not correct, not true. तो correct वाले को मत करके आ जाना. Okay, come to the next question. The technical change in endogenous growth model is endogenized by providing incentive to firms to innovate, making the savings function dependent on income, introducing constraints in the capital accumulation, assuming a perfectly competitive market structure. So the answer to this question is actually A. And again, I have discussed this in mock test also. Endogenous growth model only is, it only works on innovation. It says that the growth that can come in any economy is because of the innovation factor, because of the A, this A, जिसको हम technological growth लिखते हैं. This is what is going to go ahead and bring innovation. This is what is going to go ahead and bring growth in the economy. So therefore, it says that if I give incentive to firms to innovate, अच्छा क्या चीजें हैं जो incentive को decline करेंगी? If firms innovate, this is also part of the same model, but others immediately copy, then firms will not have an incentive to innovate. I spent my resources for innovation and you immediately copied that thing. Other people just reduced their cost by copying it. Then no firm will have incentive to innovate. And then how will I make sure that firms innovate? Through copyrights and patents. So therefore, we can say that, and maybe it can come next time, that how can firms continue to innovate? How will I provide them an incentive? By giving them copyrights, by giving them patents, by ensuring that it is published somewhere, by giving them some subsidies to innovate, so that there is a continuous growth engaged in my economy. Okay, come to the next question. The real exchange rate is given by E equal to E P by P star, where E is the price of domestic goods, E is the price of domestic currency, P is the domestic price, P star, etc., etc. If Indian rupee depreciates and Marshall-Lerner condition holds, then okay. So ideally, they have given a lot of information, which is of not much use to me. I just have to read this line that my Indian rupee is depreciating. And we know that if depreciation takes place, then my good becomes cheaper. If my good becomes cheaper, then the demand of my commodity will increase. If the demand will increase, I will be able to export more. If I will be able to export more, export minus import will increase. So my trade balance will increase. But we have seen something which is called as the J curve, which tells us that for some time, when we depreciate, the trade balance worsens. So यहाँ पर जब वो trade balance की बात कर रहे हैं, should I say it improves or should I say it worsens? What would be the right thing? That is where this information comes into picture. It says Marshall-Lerner condition holds.
which means, again, we have seen this, it means that this aspect cannot be. It means that when you will depreciate, then in that case, your trade balance is supposed to improve. That is what the condition suggests. So therefore, we can say that imports will increase now, exports will increase, India's trade balance will improve, correct? Foreign demand for Indian goods will increase, correct? This is what we saw. Foreign demand for Indian goods will decrease, incorrect. So this sentence makes sure that I am not stuck in this part of the J curve where I am worsening. It ensures that the usual phenomena holds true. Okay. Come to the next question. Which of the following statement is correct, are correct under the Keynesian cross price model? The product market and factor market independently determine the full employment level of output. So understand. See, the factor market is assumed to be dependent on the product market. The factor market, चाहे labor की बात करो या capital की बात करो, it is called to have imputed demand. So how much factor I will demand, कितना labor demand होगा, कितना capital demand होगा, it will depend on how much output I want to produce. And we have seen this, right? When we do the reverse, when we just have the demand of labor and the supply of labor, and we go ahead and find the equilibrium labor, then we see, right, that this labor through the production function tells me how much output I am producing. So these are interlinked concepts, labor and output. I cannot say that they are independent of each other. So this would be an incorrect statement. Output is determined in the product market by aggregate expenditure. This is correct. We saw this. When we talk only about the product market, then I have a 45-degree line. I have an AE curve, which is C plus I plus G, aggregate expenditure curve, and I will determine the level of output in the product market. So this is a correct statement. Money market determines the price level given the quantity of money and the level of the output. So think about this. See, when I talk about the Keynesian model, the Keynesian model does not say that money market individually can determine the price level. And we know that actually the entire concept of how prices increase when money increases, etc., only hold true when we talk about the classical model. When we talk about the Keynesian model, and when I especially talk about the AS-AD curve, everything together will determine the price. AS and AD together can determine the price in the economy. Not the money market alone can determine the price in the economy. This is definitely incorrect. Employment is determined in the factor market by output level determined in the product market. Again, this is the same statement that I made above, that the factor market has an imputed demand. Its demand is gained from how much I want to produce in the product market. If I want to produce more, I will employ more. If I want to produce less, I will employ less. So this is correct, that the employment will be determined by the output produced in the product market. So as you know, we have gone ahead and done the entire AS-AD model, right? So not the money market alone, but the product market and money market and the labor market together. AS curve comes from the labor market. AD comes from the money plus the goods market. They together will determine, not alone. Okay. Okay. Come to the next question. Monthly per capita consumption expenditure of 10 households in a region is given below. So because they gave this question, I have been giving you multiple such questions in the mock test, not only related to squared poverty gap ratio, but related to income gap ratio, related to other poverty gap ratios. You have to go ahead and try and practice all the possible poverty, and please look at my development eco video for that. All the possible poverty measures. Jisme poverty gap ratio is just one of them. So now let's see this. It says, assuming the poverty cutoff Z of MPCE to be 2000, the squared poverty gap ratio is given by. So please write down. So what I'm going to do is the formula for squared poverty gap ratio. This is given by 1 by n summation Z minus yi by Z. I goes from 1 to all those individuals who are below the poverty line, n suppose. So Z is your poverty line. Yi is only going to take those people who are below the poverty line. So if my poverty line is 2000, then below poverty line, I'm going to take this person, this person, this person, this person, and this person. So I have 5 people who are going to be below my poverty line. So accordingly, I will take my yi. So if I go ahead and I look at it, Z is 2000. I will just write it 5 times. And I have 1200 here, 1400, 1000, 900, and 1300. Divided by 2000, 2000, 2000, 2000, and 2000. Squared up, squared up, squared up, squared up, and squared up. Sum this everything up. And then divide this by 1 or multiply it by 1 by n. And how many individuals are there? 10 individuals. So this must be multiplied, right? So you will get the answer as 0.16 plus 0.09. Please solve it on your own once and check this. 0.25, 0.3025, 0.1225. This is what you will be getting after solving this. Divide by 10. So you will get the answer as 0.925 divided by 10, 0.092. This is going to be your answer. So calculation is easy. You will be given calculators in exam. The only thing is to understand the formula and solve accordingly. So you can find those videos under the Indian Eco section only. Under Indian economy only, I have gone ahead and added these videos on development eco also, which talk about different poverty ratios and which talk about other things also. Like, for example, what is capability approach? What is human development index formula? It talks about that. Okay, come to the next question. Suppose that the full employment level of output of an economy is 2200 million. This is a good question. Expenditure determined by the level of output is 2163 million. And marginal propensity to consume is 0.75. The deflationary gap is equal to. So understand this thing. So when I talk about the deflationary gap is there because there is a gap between full employment level and the current level of the output. So the gap between this and this is the gap which I want to cover. Utna mujhe cover karna hai. So when I go ahead and I check 2200,
minus 2163. I am going to go ahead and I'm going to get the answer for the gap that I want to cover. So this gap is going to come down to 30. But note that I don't need to spend 37 in order to cover this gap. Okay. So what happens is every rupee that I spend, I want to reach this level. I want to reach 2200. But every rupee that I spend, it is going to have a multiplier effect. And what is my multiplier? My multiplier is given by 1 upon 1 minus C. So it is given by 1 upon 1 minus 0.75. So it is given by 1 upon 0.25, which means it is given by 4. So for every 1 rupee I spend, it automatically converts to 4 because of this multiplier effect. So I don't have to go ahead and spend these 37 rupees. I want to reach this target. I want to have covered this 37 gap. But in order to cover that gap, the expenditure that I will be required to do is just 1/4 of it. It's just 9.25. This, through the multiplier effect, will become 37. I have given such questions also, inflationary, deflationary gap. In mock test, I want you to practice those. You have to understand the concept that when you want to cover a particular gap in the economy, you don't have to go ahead and you don't have to spend that much money. Each rupee spent is going to multiply itself. So you just have to spend some money. It after multiplication should become this much. And how much should I be spending? Only this much. This is what I would be willing to spend. Opposite. So inflationary gap is basically going to be the case where I will have my output today more than my full employment level. So actually it's just going to be this 2400, suppose. So I have to withdraw 200, but I don't have to actually go ahead and do that. That also works through the same multiplier effect. So in order to withdraw 200, I just want to go ahead and reduce my spending by 50 as a government, and 4 times it will reduce itself. Inflationary gap is going to be there when output will be more than full employment. Deflationary will be when output will be less than full employment. The method remains the same. You just have to find the gap and it is going to work through the multiplier effect. So accordingly, you will invest or disinvest. Okay, now come to the next question. Let the consumption function, tax function, and income identity be given by this. So you're given C is equal to C naught plus B, Y minus T, T is equal to T naught plus T Y, Y is equal to C plus I plus G. So you're given that B is 0.75 and T is 0.1. Increase in G by 20 million will increase Y by how much? So Y is equal to C naught plus B ki jagah pe I will put 0.75, Y minus T ki jagah pe we will put T naught minus small t ki jagah pe I will put 0.1, Y plus G naught. Actually, I don't have to do this much also, but I'm just deriving it. Then we can do it through formula also. So Y will be equal to C naught plus 0.7 Y minus 0.1 Y minus T naught plus G naught. This is going to be C naught plus 0.75, 0.9 Y minus 0.75 T naught plus G naught. This is Y. So 1 minus 0.75, 0.9 Y is equal to C naught plus G naught minus 0.75 T naught. Ye pura ho gaya. Now it says how much is my Y going to change when my government expenditure changes by a certain amount. So basically I can just bring change everywhere. So 1 minus 0.75
0.9, change in Y is equal to, C is not changing, 0. Change in G naught, T is not changing, that becomes 0. So change in Y by change in G naught will be 1 upon 1 minus 0.75 into 0.9. G is changing by 20, so यहाँ पे 20 कर दो. This goes on the right hand side, it becomes in the numerator, so this becomes like this. You solve this and you will get 61.5. इस पूरी चीज को करने की जरूरत नहीं थी. I could have simply used my multiplier formula also. This is this. This is my multiplier, and multiplier is nothing but it is change in Y upon change in G. So change in Y is multiplier into change in G. If you notice, this is exactly what I have derived. C or marginal propensity to consume is given as 0.75. Tax rate was given as 0.1. So 1 minus T will become 0.9. So actually I have done exactly the same thing only. But I went through this derivation because sometimes they may give some additional information. Just say, what if they would have given investment as a function of income? So यहाँ पर I की जगह पे I might have had I bar plus suppose CY. Suppose as my income increases, investment increases. So उस case में this would have been an additional factor where Y was involved. Then this formula, general formula, will not work. So it's a good idea if you can just go through this once and write dy and dg once and solve it. Okay, now come to the next question, question number 49. The following table represents national income and find personal disposable income. P again class 12th का question है ये. Find personal income, personal disposable income, private disposable income. This does not come in ISI, BSc, etc. So I urge you to go through the concepts very well. The good part about this is that most of the information is not to be used. The personal disposable income is personal income minus taxes. So if I do 1 to 40 minus 28, I will get personal disposable income as 112. And that's the answer. This is my personal income and this is my direct taxes. Only this is required for personal disposable income. But most of the students got it wrong because they did not knew the formula. They started from some private income and they did something with it. Okay, now come to the next question. The following table provides a list of countries selling Big Mac and market exchange rate in January 2019. Using the above information, the cheapest price in dollar of Big Mac is. Yes, they can. Of course. So think about this question. It says that this Big Mac is available in these currencies at this price, and this is my exchange rate that I have. So actually, if you think about it, if it is, let's start with India first. So if it is for 178 rupees and $1 is 69.69 rupees and I'm paying 178 rupees. How many dollars am I paying? 178 divided by 69.69. I have paid this many rupees. $1 is this. So how many dollars is it worth? Just divide 178 by the exchange rate. You will get it in dollars. So when I divide this, I will get the answer as 2.55 in terms of dollar. I hope this is clear. $1 69 rupees का है. मैंने 178 rupees खर्च किए. So 178 divided by 69.69 gives me $2.55. If I were to spend in India, it would have costed me this much. On very, very similar analysis, you can just divide and check. So 5.58 divided by 1 will be 5.58. If you keep dividing, you will get something like this: 5.861, 3.596, 2.83, 3.05, 1.651 by dividing. It says the cheapest price in dollar of Big Mac. It's here. It's in Russia. Because in Russia, it was for 110 rubles and $1 was worth 66.69 rubles. So you just spend $1.65 and you can get the Big Mac. So which means that the answer is 1.651. The only thing you had to do was divide this by this and see which is the cheapest. That's it. Very simple question, but you have to understand what the question is saying. Okay. Come to the next one. Suppose that per capita GDP of India and USA are growing at an annual average rate of 8.8 and 1.8 respectively. Further consider that per capita GDP of USA, so you're given per capita GDP of USA is 41099 and that of India is 1570. The growth rate of USA is 1.8% and the growth rate of India is 8.8%. Assuming that the two countries continue to grow at the above rate, India's per capita GDP will be equal to per capita GDP of USA in how many years? This is not a macro question actually, just a simple logical question, maths question. So think about this. See, India is growing every year at 8.8%. US is growing every year at 1.8%. So it's not that USA is not growing, wo bhi grow kar raha hai, India bhi, and I have to see the convergence. So if I think about it, India, let they converge in year end. So India ka is saal 1570 tha. Agle saal isi mein it will add 8% to it. फिर जो आएगा उसमें वापस 8% add हो जाएगा and so on. This is compounding. So which means I can simply write this as 1570 1 plus 8.8 by 100 to the power n in n years. Similarly, for USA, I can write that it started with 41099. It is also growing at 1.8% every year. So at the end of n years, it will be this. I want to find that n such that I get equal amount. The total GDP that I have for India becomes equal to the GDP of USA. So I just have to equate the two. 1570, 1 plus 8.8 upon 100 to the power n becomes equal to this. Just take log on both sides. So Penny, let's just simplify. Maybe you can just divide 41099 by 1570. And here you will be just left up with 26.17. Now just take log on both sides. So ln 1 plus 8.8 by 100 to the power n is equal to 26.17, 1 plus 1.8 by 100 to the power n. I have taken ln here also. So this is going to give me n ln 1 plus 8.8 by 100 is equal to ln 26.17 plus n ln 1 plus 1.8 by. I am just using the basic rules of ln. Ln m plus ln n will be ln m plus ln n. This is ln mn, right? So it will become ln m plus ln n. Then ln m to the power n, n comes down and you will be left with something else. You will be given a scientific calculator within the platform. That's not to be worried about. So this becomes 100 plus 1, 100 plus 8.8. इसको अगर मैं simple terms में लिखूं, this will be 108.8 by 100. And if I have to write this will be 101.8 by. So you just solve this. So you will have n ln 108.8 by 100 minus ln 101.8 by 100. This will give you the answer as ln 26.17. Just solve this thing and you will get n equal to ln 26.17 upon ln 1.068 after solving this. So the value of n will come approximately. Solving, I am leaving up to you. I think you can do the basic ln solving. I'm not going to do that. The concept is very simple. You want to equate the GDP of the two economies after some years. And you have to find when will they coincide. So they will coincide after approximately 50 years. And what have I done? I have just taken the growth rate. And this is the formula of compounding. If you remember, the basic formula of compounding is P1 plus R by 100 to the power T. है ना? ये तो compounding interest rate होता है. So this is in a way my principal. This is my interest rate. This is to the power T, time period. Same iska. And they want it to be same. So I just equated it. Okay, come to the next question. ACD Bank holds a total deposit of 256412. To expand the money supply, the Reserve Bank reduced the reserve ratio. So earlier reserve ratio was 4.5%. Now reserve ratio is 3.5%. Now just think. See, whenever you have any deposit with you, that deposit is supposed to grow through the effect of money multiplier. The money multiplier in most simple equation can be represented by 1 divided by CRR. This is the money multiplier. So the money multiplier in this case will be 1 divided by 4.5. % है तो इसको by 100 कर लेना. The money multiplier in the other case is going to be 1 divided by 3.5%. This is what my money multiplier is going to be. Now, once I find this money multiplier, ye deposits, they are going to multiply themselves based on this money multiplier. This time they will multiply themselves. So which means that if I have a deposit of 256412, after putting the money multiplier in place, they will grow at this rate and I will get the answer as 569804. This many times money has multiplied itself. We know the concept of money multiplier. You give your deposits, bank will keep some reserves, remaining amount bank will give out as loan. That loan will be deposited again in the bank and money will multiply. Same here. When I have a deposit of 256412, with this reserve ratio, this is my multiplier, my money will grow out to 73,26057. So earlier my money became this, deposits became this when they multiplied itself. Now my deposits have become this. What is the difference between the two? The difference between two is 1628013, and this is your answer. This is the amount by which additional money would be generated. As a simple rule, whenever you will decrease your reserve ratio, you will always increase in the money supply in the economy. So pretty simple question. You just had to use this formula. Okay, come to the next part. Given the following information related to the product and money market, the equilibrium level of interest rate is. Okay. So let's solve the product market first. Y is equal to C plus I plus G. So 300 plus 300, 600 plus 400,000 plus 0.8y. Instead of t, I will put this 200 plus 0.2y. This is y. So y is equal to 1000 plus 0.8y minus 0.8 into 200 plus 0.8 into 0.2 into y. You could have solved here directly also. Y minus 0.2y would have been 0.8y into 0.8 would have been 0.64. So 1000 plus 0.64 minus 160, this is y. So 0.36y, this gives me 840, and the value of y that you will get from here will be 233. This is your y. Now come to the money market. The money market says demand of money should be equal to supply of money. Supply of money is m by p, which is 900 by 1, which is 900. Demand of money is this. This should be equal to demand of money. Why I found out from the goods market at 2333. So I will just plug in this value. I will get 900 equal to 0.42333 minus 200 I. Just solve for I. So you will get I as 0.16. So the interest rate is going to be upward. This is your interest. Usually in exam, mostly they will ask you to find the interest rate and equilibrium level of income simultaneous. यहाँ से एक equation आएगा y का, यहाँ से एक equation आएगा y का, but in that case, your interest rate, ये investment will not be autonomous. They will give you some value of investment, say something like this. तो अगर investment भी function of interest rate होता, supposedly, then my product market equation would have been the IS equation, typical IS equation in Y and I. Money market would also have been in Y and I. Then you would have solved for Y and I simultaneously. But this was easier. I just solved Y from product market, plugged that here and found the I from the money market. And that is it. So these were the only questions that were there from macroeconomics.
Now you're supposed to see that the questions that have come this time have focused primarily on checking whether you know IS, LM, slope of IS, slope of LM, concept of money multiplier, Keynesian theory, classical theory, and the concept of quantity theory. So if you notice, and one or two questions on the Mundell-Fleming, these are the exact topics that we have tried to do in the advanced lectures. Your focus should be only to revise using those. I think this time they may ask a question on consumption hypothesis. Please do that chapter also. Do questions on what is life cycle hypothesis, what is permanent income hypothesis, along with the concepts that we have done in the advanced lecture. The solo model has been coming since the last 2 years. Maybe this time they may give you Harrod-Doman model. Do that. And there is a short video in your lectures, in the intermediate lectures on Schumpeter. Please do that. This time endogenous came. Next time Schumpeter and Harrod-Doman can come. So we have to be very sure that these 4 models we are completely thorough with. Okay. So Okun's law, according to the question that they had given the last time, they had assumed at 2%. Ideally, both 2 and 3% are correct. If it talks about real GDP, take 2%. If it talks about nominal, take 3. Sacrifice ratio is sacrifice ratio is usually calculated after we have gone ahead and done the Okun's law, the sacrifice ratio basically asks us, how are we going to affect the level of the output? How much output should I be sacrificing when I want to go ahead and I want to affect one of the things, usually inflation? So if I want to increase the level of my inflation, how much is the output that I would want to go ahead and change? That part I have gone ahead and covered. Akshita, that's there in one of the mock test question. I will refer you to that mock test question so that you can go through that complete question once and see how we have calculated sacrifice ratio in that case. Consumption hypothesis, life cycle hypothesis is from intermediate lectures. Yes, if you scroll below in the intermediate lectures, you will go ahead and you will find something which is called consumption. Just the label is consumption. And then just below that, you will find investment. Investment it talks about the important theories of investment. Like, for example, how do you cover the investment gap over time? And consumption talks about 6 major theories of consumption. Please do all of those theories. It won't take more than 1.5 hours. हो सके आज ही बैठ के finish off all of those theories. Okay. Okay then. So now we will have 2 more sessions. One is going to be on statistics and one is going to be on mathematics. Okay. So these playlists are not there, Abhinav. These are part of the course. If you have access to the course, the full-fledged course, these are there only in those courses, not on YouTube channels. Okay, thank you. Indian economy is also there, Smriti, in the same lectures. So if you go ahead and you see, there will be some lectures on Indian economy. I've added one on Mahalanobis. I'm going to go ahead and take a marathon very similar to these on Indian economy. I will go ahead and dictate some of the important points and we can make a note of those. We will do that. I will, past years there is nothing to discuss as such usme, but we will go ahead and we will take those in one of the classes. I will do it for the students. Okay. These are there on the portal. Yes, Sudha, they're there.